And then you take, once you've done that, once you've worked out the 50, you times it by your 25.5, okay? Your profit per unit, okay? Because if we look at what the sales volume variance, what's the variance called? The sales volume profit variance, yeah, the sales volume profit variance, it's here. The volume variance is here because we're looking at the volume. We don't use the selling price, we use the margin, because we're comparing the units that we thought we would sell versus what we actually sold, and then we use the profit that we made on them on the budget, on the budgeting assumptions. So, for example, you just use what your profit per unit would be in whatever situation that is. When you're using marginal costing, it's your contribution per unit, but in absorption costing, which we are using, it is your total profit per unit, which is in our case 25.5. Okay, that is our favorable sales volume profit variance. Yep. And it's favorable, remember, because we sold 50 more than we thought we would. We've got standard profit on actual sales, yeah, which is just that plus that. And if we see what that works out as, that would be the same as taking 1050 times by 25.5, yeah? And that's what they mean by flexed budget here. Yeah, when you flex your budget, you take the actual units you sold. Yeah, the actual units you sold, and you times it by your budgeted prices, okay? So you flex your budget to bring it up to realities. Instead of comparing 1,000 with 1,050, you're comparing 1,050 with 1,050. Yeah, because that brings then you're comparing like with like, you can see then, yeah? And see, it's the same. All right. Okay, now we want our selling price variance. Now this is quite easy, this one. Your selling price variance, right, is just literally comparing what your selling prices were. So this is literally comparing, this is simply comparing your budgeted selling price and your actual selling price. Okay, and you then times that by the amount you actually sold. Okay, so what was our budgeted selling price? Our budgeting selling price, yeah, was 120. Okay, it gives it to us there per unit. Now, how do we work out our actual selling price? Well, your actual selling price, remember, your actual selling price is simply your revenue divided by the number of sales that you've made, because you've got to remember revenue is equal to selling price times number of units sold. Yeah, so then to work out that equation in the opposite way, you just take 1,000, you take your revenue and you divide it by your units sold, and that gives you your selling price. Yeah, it's basic algebra. So let's see what our selling price is. So we do 138,600 divided by 1050. So we've got 132. So our selling price is 132, yeah? And we budgeted our selling price at 120, okay? So what does that tell us? We have another favorable variance because we've sold at a higher price, right? Yeah? So 132, so it's favorable. But you need to obviously put that in, you need to make that different, so it's a variance. So it's a difference between what you thought you would get versus what you actually got. So you take the 132 and you minus 120 from it. Yeah? It's 12 difference, £12 per unit sold. Then you need to monetize it in terms of how many units you've actually sold. Yeah? So that's 1050. Okay, 12,600. So we've made 12,600 more in total than we thought we would because we sold at a price of £12 higher. Yeah? Okay, and then that will give us, because you add that because it's favorable. Okay? And then we've got up to this X here now. Okay? Now we're going to go on to our cost variances. So now we want to, in the question, the key thing of the question is here, or when it says, produce an operating and reconciles the budgeted profit to the actual profit, identifying all appropriate variances. So appropriate variances we can do. So we can do direct material A variance, B wages, variable overhead, and fixed overhead. So with all these variances, with the material variance, there are two variances you can do: a usage and a price. Yeah. Same with direct material B. Wages is cost and efficiency. Variable overhead, cost and efficiency as well. Okay. So we're going to be material A. I'm just going to write it like this: material A. Material A, which is going to be a usage and price. Material B will be the same. I won't go into too much detail when I do material B's because it will be the same price. Okay, so let's start with these. Okay, so we got usage. So your usage variance, yeah? So this is, what you're looking at here is you're comparing how much you should have used versus how much you actually used. And then you times that again by your standard price. Anytime, like, it's the similar concept to the volume variance, the sales volume variance, yeah? Because the reason why it's the same as the sales volume variance is because you're comparing, in the sales volume variance, you're comparing how many units you thought you would sell versus how much you actually sold. Here, you're and you times it by your budgeted price. Here, with direct material A, you're comparing how much you expected to use versus how much you actually used, and you're going to times that by your budgeted price. Never use your actual prices in these comparisons, in these issues, as I said before, because you're comparing how much you've used, not the price. The only time you use your actual price for anything is when you're comparing it with how much you thought you would get, or how much you thought you would pay, or how much you thought you would receive for something, yeah? Not how much you use. Anytime you're using units, or how much you thought you would use, or how much you thought you would sell, you always use your budgeted price, okay? Okay, so, and you've got to be careful here with these, right? Because when it says direct material A here, right, it's got 12.5, yeah? But that's 12.5 of 5 kilos. So we need to work out direct material A's price per kilo. Okay, so first, price per kilo will simply be, so the standard price we'll work out first, yeah? So first, we'll work out this, our material usage. So we will do the price. What we want to do, step one, work out standard price. The standard price per kilo. Yeah, we want to work per kilo. So we do 5. So we do 12.5 divided by 5. 2.5. Just be really careful when you look at your standard cost cards with things like this, hours and gear. They will always try and trick you like this, okay? Every single time. Every single time. So you were expected to use 5 kilos of something per unit. Yeah? Okay? So 5 kilos. So we produced 1,050. Yeah? In the case of 1,050, yeah, you would be expected to use, 5 kilos per unit. Yeah? So let's just have a look here quickly. So you would expect to use 5 kilos, yeah, per unit at 1,050, right? So this is what you need to do. So you expected to use 5,250 kilos, yeah? 5 times however many units we are. You expected to use 5 kilos per unit. You produced 1,050, yeah? You were expecting to use in that 5,250, yeah? You actually used 5,670. So what that says is your usage variance, yeah, is much higher. So you've actually got an unfavorable, you've got an adverse usage variance, yeah? And a usage variance, so I should say a usage variance is adverse when you use more of something than you thought. In the example of material A, yeah, you thought you'd use 525, i.e. 5 kilos per unit, and you made 105, 5 times. However, you used 5670. Okay? This means your variance is adverse. Okay? So what we will do, we'll put that into Excel now. So we'll just say, so we'll say 5 times that times 5. So I'll just double bracket it. 5 times 1050, yeah? 1050 minus 5670, I believe it was. Yeah, 5670. Okay. So you've got a negative usage variance there, yeah? You never put minuses in here, yeah? So I'm not going to put minuses. You don't put minuses in your standard. You don't do that. You just put adverse, yeah? Just don't ever, you just write adverse and then you minus it off, yeah? Because that's an increased cost. So now we're just going to do the price variance, okay? So your price variance will be how much you thought you would spend per kilo versus how much you actually spent. So we know you thought you would spend, remember, 12.5 divided by 5. Yeah, 2.5, right? Yeah, 12.5 divided by 5. Yeah, you actually spent per kilo 14,742 divided by 5,670, okay? So we do 14,742 divided by 5670, okay? So you spent 2.6. What does that tell you? You've got an adverse variance there. Yeah, because you spent more than you thought you would, okay? So that's quite obvious comparatively. So what we will do is we will do, just open brackets, 14,742 divided by 5670. Remember that gives us a price per kilo minus 12.5 divided by 5 because that's our standard cost card. Remember 12.5 divided by 5. Okay? Right? So that is our adverse variance of 0.1. Then what we need to do is we times it by, let me double check. And we times that by how much we actually bought. Yeah. We times that by how much we actually bought, which was 5670, yeah? Okay. So that is your usage and your price variance, okay? I will do it quickly again for B, but let me stop this video and start another one because otherwise it will get too big.